Hi everyone. So this week for our writing activity, we are focusing on inspirational quotations. Now, when we think about quotations, a lot of times certain ones come to mind that are really famous and people kind of repeat them again and again. And so you wonder, why? Why do we respond to these famous quotations? Why do they resonate with us? Well, many people turn to motivational quotations for inspiration. They need a little kick to get going, doing something, or something to remind them to keep on a journey. Some sayings are so famous that we repeat them regularly because they have a really deep meaning and they either are inspirational or they represent that something that we're going through, something that we're experiencing that's important in our lives. So I have some examples here that I thought it would be interesting to think about. One you may have heard many times in middle school. When given the choice between being right and being kind, choose kind. This is a famous quotation by Dr. Wayne Dyer, and you may have heard it many times in middle school because it was part of the message that was a part of the book Wonder. So I think sometimes, that quotation is thrown around quite a bit, and we hear it because it was part of a book that had a much deeper and significant meaning for many people. Also, Wayne Gretzky very famously said, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." Now, he was talking about sports there, and certainly I've heard lots of people use this quotation in the context of sports and quote Wayne, and his experience in sports, but theirs as well. But also, I've heard people use this quotation in the context of life, when you're taking a risk or you're putting yourself out there. So sometimes the quote starts out with one focus, but then it becomes broader because it really has a deep meaning that resonates with people across a lot of different situations. Both of these examples, though, are trying to inspire you to do something or to be your best self. Now, some quotations are more memorable than others. And when we think about that, we need to think about the way that they're phrased because there's a lot of different ways to say something, but one way might be more pleasing, more convincing, and it might stand out more than others because it's arranged better. The ideas just come across better in that particular quotation. So I've given you some things to think about as you're looking for your quotation in this assignment. The first thing that you could look for is clever wording or a turn of phrase that really stands out to you. Here's an example. "I'm so clever that sometimes I don't understand a single word I'm saying." That's Oscar Wilde. He was quoted as saying this, and I thought it was a clever wording. He is, kind of throwing out a funny idea, but in a way that sticks in your mind. You could also think about figurative language. So sometimes there's metaphors or there's imagery that helps this quotation become really powerful. Virginia Woolf famously said, "Books are the mirrors of the soul." It's like a deep, metaphorical, imagistic idea. We could also think about rhyme or parallel structure. So Ronnie Lott has this very famous quotation you may have heard before, "If you can believe it, the mind can achieve it." Notice how believe and achieve are rhymes, but also there's parallel here. So the first half of the sentence kind of matches the second half of the sentence and it creates balance, and that makes it stick in our heads. And finally, you could think about a role model that you have. Sometimes our role models come out with these deep, profound thoughts, and we keep quoting them because they're famous people, and so we're inspired by them and their achievements. Albert Einstein very famously said many things, but this is one example. "Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving." So Albert Einstein, super famous guy, definitely someone that you could look up to, and this quotation could be something that might apply to your life right now, right? Just trying to move forward and keep going, keeping your balance. Okay? Not every famous quotation is going to have every one of these characteristics, but it might have one or two, and there's certainly things to think about as you're trying to find one quote that sort of sums up your life right now. So when we think about finding deeper meaning in our favorite quotations, for some people, that especially when they're open to the message that the quote is sharing, because it does something to connect with them in that moment, these well-structured quotations use strong imagery and appeal to our aspirational nature. They can be meaningful and powerful in changing our thinking, and they can help us to see something in ourselves that we might want to change or to overcome. And that's one of the main reasons why they get repeated and passed on for generations. But quotations can have different meanings to each of us based on where we are in our lives. So there are lots of right interpretations here. I'm not looking for one correct answer. You might see something in a quotation that inspires you, and somebody else might see something very different. Quotations can even resonate differently with us as individuals at different points in our lives, depending on where we're at and what we're going through. So your task this week is to find a quotation that either expresses something about one of your positive experiences at Springton Lake, something that sums up your life as a soon-to-be high school student, or something that captures the essence of some motivation or some inspiration that you need at this point in your life. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways that this can go. Once you've found your quotation, you can use a program like Adobe Spark or Canva to help you illustrate it, or you can make a Google slideshow or a document with words and images. But I want you to think about fonts and colors and ways to make your quotation best express the deep meaning that you see in it. Or, of course, if you are artistic, you could do this by hand. You could draw and use your fancy lettering, but that's completely up to you. The final thing that I'm asking you to do this week is to explain why you chose this quotation in a paragraph. How is it representing either your time in middle school, or what wisdom is it sharing that applies to your life right now? And then once you've written that paragraph, include it with your quote and the illustration and upload it onto Schoology. Now, I've included for you a whole sample slideshow of different student and faculty examples of this assignment so that you can get an idea of what it should look like when it's finished. Feel free to check that out. It's in this folder. And of course, I'm here if you have any questions. Have fun with this. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Have a great week, guys. I'll see you online.